The area of Upper Lim River had been inhabited since prehistory, more precisely since Mesolithic period, 9,000 years till 6,000 years BC. The testimony of that are the material remains found over the course of archaeological explorations. A favorable geographic position and developed roads enabled continual migrations of population and interweaving of different cultures from the prehistoric tribes through Illyrians and Romans all the way to the arrival of Slavs and Ottoman conquests. That rich cultural heritage is preserved in the Lim Region Museum, which reveals what the life in the Lim region looked like from prehistory to this day. The Lim Region Museum was founded in 1955 as a regional museum by the decision of the People's Committee for Berane District. The municipalities of that time, Ivangrad, Andrijevica, Plav and Rožaje. The museum was placed in the building of the first public school in the area, which is near Monastery Đurđevi Stupovi. As of 1996, the museum is in the center of Berane, in the building of Sobriety House, the endowment of King Alexander I Karađorđević. Basic task of the Lim Region Museum is to collect, keep, process, in a scientific and museology way, and display museum items. Based on the items it has in its disposal, the Lim Region Museum aims to show the history of Upper Lim region chronologically, territorially, and thematically. More than 10,000 museum items are divided into several specific collections. The museum's permanent setup is comprised of the archaeological, historical, ethnographical ones, and heraldic collection of arms. Within the museum, there is also a gallery with permanent setup of artistic paintings from the legacy of Miomir Mišo Popović, occasional exhibitions of artists and creators from Montenegro and region. As of 2022, the gallery Nikola and Uglješa Popović, where part of the gallery activities also take place, was also passed to the Lim Region Museum for management. Archaeological collection. Archaeological collection is comprised of items for everyday use. Parts of ceramic vessels, jewelry, tools, and arms found on the sites that belong to the Younger Stone Age, Neolithic, the Copper and Bronze Ages, Illyrian and Roman periods. A number of items date back to the Neolithic, which has a specific mark in the Lim region, due to the fact that the influences of the coastal cultures and the cultural group of Vinča were intertwined here. Unique tools made from deer antlers, as well as unusual necklace made of perforated wolf fangs, belong to the Copper and Bronze Ages. A special value of the archaeological collection make the items found in the mounds from the Illyrian period. A decoration made of amber from the 4th century BC stands out for its beauty and value. It was discovered in the prince's tomb from Lisjevo Polje, where there is a relief presentation of a horseman with a dog on a small tile. The most valuable item in artistic sense is a miniature rainbow head with large slanted eyes. You can become familiarized with the turbulent history of this area, where wars had often been fought, through the historical collection too. It follows the development of arms and military equipment from medieval maces and swords through flintlock rifles and firelocks, all the way to the firearms used in the World War I and World War II. Arms represented status symbol and was a component of traditional male costume. Due to that, sabers, swords, daggers and scimitars, as well as Albanian rifles and firelocks, were richly decorated in geometric and plant motifs with an integrated golden or silver wire and decorative mother-of-pearl tiles. One of the most interesting items from the collection is one-of-a-kind hooded mail shirt from the 15th century, made of metal rings, which was a component of war equipment from the time of Crusades. Ethnographic collection. Costumes, jewelry, objects for everyday use make the essence of the ethnographic collection, which faithfully depicts what the life in the Upper Lim region looked like in the second half of the 19th century and the first half of the 20th, with over 700 items. In this multicultural environment, there was intertwining of different ethnic groups and cultural influences, which can be seen best in the details of the national costumes. Along with male and female jewelry, ethnographic collection is comprised of a number of items related to furniture, relevant both for their intended use and for their rich decorations. Heraldic collection. Heraldic collection illustrates best frequent war events and a complicated political situation during the 19th and 20th centuries, both in the Lim region and in the entire region. The collection is comprised of coats of arms, medals, memorials, lapel pins, and flags. The items from this collection represent an official act of honoring, acknowledging, or thanking a particular deserving person, as well as memorials issued to commemorate an important event. Banners and flags are witnesses to many rebellions and liberation wars that had been fought in this area. There are, among them, a flag of the military unit from Trepča from the Balkan Wars, as well as an Ottoman flag seized on Jasikovac Hill during the last battle for the liberation of Berane from Turks in 1912. In addition to the Montenegrin medals, memorials, and various military decorations, there are also military decorations by the Kingdom of Serbia, the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes, the Kingdom of Yugoslavia, the Federative People's Republic of Yugoslavia, Social Federative Republic of Yugoslavia, as well as military decorations of foreign countries. Collection of arms. This collection has arms characteristic of the end of the 19th and the beginning of the 20th century. Rifles, revolvers, and pistols with multi-shot firing system. Of the rifles, there are represented Muscovite, Austrian Steyr, Italian rifles Carcano and Beretta Gardone, Turkish rifles Berdan and Mauser, hunting weapons and 2 machine guns, Breda and Browning. Montenegrin gases stand out among the pistols. In the collection, there are several Italian revolvers produced by Bernadelli Gardone, military state revolver Browning, Smith-Wesson, Nagant, American Colt cartridge, Moser Werke. A lightweight mortar is also displayed. Other collections. In addition to the items from the permanent setup, there is a number of items which, due to lack of space, are not available for the visitors despite their value and rarity, except while organizing special exhibitions related to a specific time period or theme by which they can be included. For these reasons, in the permanent setup of the Lim Region Museum, there are not at all represented items from the photography collection or the numismatic, the natural history, and the laboratory collections. Items of the permanent setup by the showcases. Showcase 1. Trebački Krš. The site is 5 kilometers south of Berane, more precisely close to the main road Berane-Plav, in the village of Trepča. It is a rock shelter where drilling archaeological explorations were conducted in the 1990s. On that occasion, there were found stone chips, microliths. They date back to the Middle Stone Age, Mesolithic, i.e. 10,000 years BC. Showcase 2. Kremenštica. Kremenštica is a site which is in the village of Petnik, 2.5 kilometers northeast from the city center. It is a stilt house type of settlement which was partly explored because there were conducted drilling archaeological explorations in 1975. The items displayed in the showcase date back to the early Neolithic. There are displayed polished stone axes, scrapers, and parts of fishing net weights. Fragments of ceramics are finely decorated. Such decorations were usually made by grips of nails, fingers, or firm objects on the vessel walls. Based on that type of decorating, we say that items in this showcase belong to the cultural group of Starčevo. Showcase 3. Kremenštica. Along with the previously specified items, characteristic of that site are also certain stone tools. Here are displayed awls and stone piercers. Showcase 4. Berankrš. The site of Berankrš is in the village of Beranselo, 2 kilometers northwest of Berane. The researches on that site were made in 2 occasions, in 1961 and 1975. There was found a house of Neolithic type with ash heap. There were found stone axes, scrapers, fragments of ceramics, stone millstones. It is considered that they date back to 3600 years BC. On some of the fragmentism, there are specific decoratings which can be seen on prosomorphic lids. There are also displayed in the showcase vessels reconstructed by the conservation services in the museums. Neolithic is also known for idolatry. The sacrifice altar made of baked clay, brought from the site of Berankrš, tells us about it in our example. Showcase 5. Berankrš. There can be seen items made of bones and stone. Here are displayed stone darts and various tools made of bones. Showcase 6 and upper part of the Showcase 7. Berankrš. There are displayed in the showcase reconstructed vessels and fragments of anthropomorphic figurines, bird-shaped heads, parts of torso, and parts of lower extremities. The exhibits from the site of Berankrš belong to the cultural group of Vinča. The special importance of the site is reflected in the discovery of the above-ground houses of a rectangular shape built out of small logs covered with clay on outside and inside. Material from the previous 2 sites is presented in the world literature. They are known of, especially in the scientific circles of archaeology. Showcase 7. Torine. In addition to the material from the cave of Grad Pećina, the material which comes from the site Torine, wolf teeth necklace, tools made of flintstone and deer antlers, in the close vicinity of the site Grad Pećina, is also displayed in this showcase. On the exit from the canyon of Radmanska, there is a plateau which served as a seasoned settlement from the Copper Age period. In several campaigns from 2007 to 2009, there were conducted drilling and systematic explorations, and very rich material was brought to the museum. The material is being processed, therefore only part of it is displayed in this showcase. Showcase 8. Minina Pećina. The cave of Minina Pećina is about 4 kilometers east of Berane, near the regional road Berane, the village of Kaludra. In the canyon of Kaludra, there is a cave where the fragments of ceramic and flintstone tools were gathered in archaeological explorations between 1992 and 1993. The cave had been devastated many times by the local gold hunters. The material found dates back to the Copper Age. Showcase 8. Grad Pećina. This site is in the gorge of Radman River, 25 kilometers north of Berane in the village of Radmanci, present-day municipality of Petnica. It is a rock shelter 15 meters deep, where there were found fragments of ceramics, tools made of bones and flintstone that belonged to Neolithic, i.e. the Copper Ages. The rock shelter is partly protected on its entrance with a 6-meter-tall rampart and dates back to the ancient period. The remains of the Roman aqueduct, which extends down the Radman riverbed, also point out to the ancient period of the site. Drilling explorations on the site were conducted in 1990, and the material had been displayed many times on various exhibitions. Showcase 9. Rudeš, Vrbica, Petnik. These are accidental findings of perforated stone axes, bronze daggers, decorative objects, bracelets, stone mold from a Celtic bronze axe from these sites. Rudeš is a site 1.5 kilometers northwest from Berane in the village of Budimlja. The site is mostly devastated in the course of building the paper factory in the 60s of the last century. Thus, there are many items of the museum that the villagers of Budimlja found, donated or sold to the museum. From the area of the village Vrbica, present-day municipality of Petnica, 25 kilometers from Berane, several perforated Bronze Age period stone axes, as well as fragments of bowls, arrived in the museum as accidental findings. By recognizing that terrain, there was noted a certain number of the Bronze Age mounds, tumuli, which were mostly devastated, while some are still waiting for a day to be explored. From the village of Petnik, also as accidental findings, there are several perforated stone axes in the museum. Showcase 10. Lisjevo Polje. Lisjevo Polje is a site 2 kilometers east of Berane, in the suburban part called Donje Luge. Through archaeological researches of the Bronze Age mounds in 1990, several fragments of bowls and cups arrived to the museum. They were later reconstructed, and we show them here in their authentic looks. The material from the showcase is processed in the catalogue that followed the exhibition, The Golden Age of Montenegro. Showcase 10. Lisjevo Polje. In this showcase, there are displayed exhibits made of amber, presentation of hunting, figures of wild animals, decorative beads, of bronze, decorative beads, applications, fibulae, jingles, of iron, spears, and reconstructed ceramic vessels from the period between the 6th and 5th century BC. The most of the exhibits from this showcase were purchased for the needs of the museum in the 1990s, while minority of them were brought from the archaeological explorations of earth tumuli in those years. The exhibits from this showcase are widely known in the scientific literature and publicized many times. In that way, the items made of amber were a part of the exhibition The Magic of Amber in 2006 that visited a range of European capitals in a few years. Showcase 10. Lisjevo Polje. The displayed exhibits came to the museum during the archaeological explorations of mounds on this site. A bronze bowl, bronze hairpins, bronze fibulae, clasps, and parts of bronze chain. The exhibits belong to the period between the 4th and 5th century BC. Showcase 11. There are displayed iron spears from the sites of Rudeš and Lisjevo Polje. The sites themselves and the way the items arrived in the museum have previously been described. Showcases 12 and 13. Lužac, military camp, castrum. Lužac is a village 2 kilometers west of Berane. Drilling archaeological explorations there were conducted in the 1950s. Thus, there was established existence of the Roman fortification, Roman castrum, with a series of accompanying facilities. The exhibits in this showcase have mainly arrived as accidental findings from the village, and it is presumed that they originate from that site. Due to the lack of funds, the site has not been completely explored, and for better preservation of the site, it was restored to the original appearance. In that way, none of it can be seen today. Gladius' sword, military vessels, and several vessels from the Roman period are displayed in the showcase. There are also displayed marble stamps from Budimlja, which have arrived to the museum as accidental findings. The characteristic vessels are a ceramic urn and a reconstructed glass vessel, lacrimarium, tear bottle. In addition to the items from the site of Lužac, there are also displayed in the showcase a few fragments of vessels made of baked clay or glass that come from the site of Kopilište in the village of Budimlja. The site is 2 kilometers north of Berane and is close to the primary school. During the archaeologic explorations conducted between 1988 and 1989, there was found a residential home, Villa Rustica, with all the characteristics of dwelling in the Roman period. Along with these fragments, there were found parts of mortar of a decorated wall. The site was, just like the previous one, restored to its original appearance for better protection and due to lack of funds. Stone urn. It has been found on the site of Rudeš, and it arrived to the museum as an accidental finding. It was used in the rites of burial of the cremated remains. The Roman domination in the Upper Lim region was significant in the period from the 2nd to the 4th century AD. Therefore, all the previously specified items are related to the Roman period. Showcase 14. Rudeš. During the adaptation, i.e. leveling the ground for the needs of building the paper factory in Berane in the 1960s, there were found items of horse equipment that date back to the migration of populations, i.e. immigration of Slavs to the Balkans Peninsula. Thus, these exhibits date back to the 6th and 7th century AD. Stone console. It is a facade decoration of a temple or a building. The console has arrived in the museum as an accidental finding. Such a finding refers us to the fact that there was a larger building, a temple, that most probably belonged to a bigger urban settlement on the territory of the municipality of Berane or in the wider region of Upper Lim. Showcases 15 and 16. Samograd. Samograd site in the village of Prijelozi is 25 kilometers south of Berane. It is an ancient fortress that dates back to the 4th century, except that the second stage of annex to the fortification was finished in the 6th century. The fortress is integrated among 6 stone cliffs spread over 60 ars. It is distinguished by its basilica, which is outside the fortification, and a basilica within the fortification. Thanks to the archaeological explorations that have been conducted in campaigns over a number of years, there are displayed in these showcases pieces of vessels, iron tools, bronze and copper coins, darts, objects for liturgical rites, as well as a golden episcopal cross reliquary with a ruby in the middle, found on one of the skeletons while excavating a necropolis. Showcase 17. Gradac fortification in Budimlja. The site of Gradac in Budimlja is close to the regional road Berane-Polica, 3 kilometers south of Berane. For years have the inhabitants of Budimlja brought to the museum various artifacts accidentally found on the slopes of the elevation which dominates with its height over the valleys of the villages Budimlja, Petnik and Dapsice. Gradac is a hill with 900 to 1,000 meters above sea level, and its peak is not overgrown with forest. In the course of the archaeological explorations conducted in 2007, there was established existence of a fortification on its top and a series of facilities within its ramparts and outside of them. Based on the remains of the facility found, there was established the thickness of 2 rows of ramparts which extend in parallel one to another and make a circular fortification whose thickness of walls is 1.80 meters, occupying a half-hectare surface. The items found point out to the continuity of living on this elevation from prehistory, i.e. from the Copper Age, Iron Age, Roman Age and Middle Ages, to the domination of the Ottoman Empire over the Upper Lim region. There are displayed in the showcase candle holders, iron axe, ironwork with inscription, iron tools, an arrowhead probably from the early Byzantine period, parts of knives, a fibula, clasp, needle, parts of fibula from the Iron Age, a reconstructed vessel, a sickle from the Roman period. A good portion of the material is being processed and is in the museum depot. Showcase 17. Gradac fortification of Crnča. 15 kilometers northeast of Berane is an elevation Gradac, which dominates over valleys of the villages Crnča, Radulići and Ivanje. All of these villages belong to the municipality of Bijelo Polje, and the Lim Region Museum conducted drilling archaeological explorations on the site in 2008. There was established, on the very top of it, existence of an ellipsoid fortification occupying 1 hectare surface. There are in the showcase iron tools, an awl, a flint, knives, a dart, which belong to the late antique period. Showcases 18 and 19. Tumbarica. It is a Roman fortification spread on 2 hectares surface. It is in the village of Donja Ržanica, 5 kilometers east of Berane. A few years back, the museum has conducted systematic archaeological explorations on the site and implemented preventive conservatory measures on architectonic remains of the basilica, of various facilities and ramparts that date back to the 4th and 6th centuries AD. There was found a big part of items that deserve scientific attention, and some of them are displayed in the showcases. These are parts of a golden belt buckle, a gilded fibula and clasp, various iron tools, knives and daggers, iron arrowheads, bronze and copper coins, as well as parts of military and horse equipment. Showcase 20. The remains of a church in Budimlja. On the rural cemetery in the village of Budimlja, about 3 kilometers north of Berane, there are remains of a medieval church which were archaeologically explored by the expert team of the Lim Region Museum in 1994. It is distinguished by its rectangular apsis, whereby we consider it belongs to the periods of the 12th and 13th centuries. The remains of the walls are conserved and the protective archaeological explorations conducted on the site itself. In the showcase are also displayed 2 lead scrolls with an engraved prayer for dispersal of vermin, cockroaches and insects, 2 stone capitals and parts of church items used in liturgical rites. Showcase 21. Remains of the monasterial complex in Košutići. About 20 kilometers south of Berane, under Mount Com, in the village of Košutice, the municipality of Andrijevica, there are remains of the monasterial complex. Archaeological explorations were conducted in 2 occasions, in 2005 and 2008, first drilling explorations and then systematic ones. There were found remains of walls of a small church, with 9 meters by 5.4 meters on those occasions. The material found during those explorations point out that those were remains of a church from the pre-Nemanjići period, i.e. from the 10th or 11th century. In the showcases are displayed crosses whose ends end in oculus, circle, and an iron cross with points at the ends for carrying candles. Showcase 21. Monasterial complex Đurđevi Stupovi. Monasterial complex Đurđevi Stupovi is an endowment of Prvoslav, son of a Grand Prefect Tihomir, the eldest brother of Nemanja. The Church of St. George was built in 1213. In the showcase are displayed a silver plate with a presentation of St. George defeating a dragon, a prayer rope, 2 bells, and a wooden cross with silver hardware of Priest Božović from Zagrade. Showcase 22. Monasterial complex Đurđevi Stupovi. The Lim Region Museum has conducted several protective archaeological explorations on the monasterial complex Đurđevi Stupovi in the past decades, and have many times implemented conservation measures on the church building itself for the preservation of authenticity, age, and beauty. At the same time, a number of exhibits has temporarily been brought to the museum for processing and a better treatment. There are also displayed in the showcase church items used for liturgical rites, decoration molds for an offering bread, chalices, cups for wine, icons, chandeliers, and liturgical books. Apart from the icons that date back to the 18th century, all other items date back to the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th. The remains of the stone window, Bifra window. Showcase 22. Monasterial complex Crnča. Below the site of Gradac fortification in Crnča, in the part of the village called Gornja Crnča, the municipality of Bijelo Polje, in 2007, after archaeological explorations, there were revealed remains of the church of St. John the Baptist. The church is mentioned for the first time in the 13th century, but it was destroyed and robbed with the arrival of the Ottomans in the region of Upper Lim in 1455. Later, in the 15th century, it was restored once more. Based on the preserved parts of the frescoes kept in the museum, we can say that the church had been decorated in frescoes. There are displayed in the showcase parts of church items used in the liturgical rites, parts of lamps, rings, preserved parts of a fresco, throne cross, candle trimmers, etc. In the continuation of the exhibition, there are 2 panels with inscriptions, also found during the archaeological explorations of the monasterial complex in Crnča. Showcase 23. There are medieval arms, a mail shirt from the 14th century, 2 maces, darts, sword, and an axe in the showcase. All of these items have been published in several occasions and are thus known to the wider audience. The mail shirt arrived to the museum as an accidental finding, and it was brought from the site of Tumbarice, 5 kilometers east of Berane, from the village of Donja Ržanica. The site was explored by drilling in 2008, and on that occasion there were revealed remains of buildings and a fortification with 2 rows of ramparts that stretch on 1.5 hectares surface. Based on the archaeological material found, it can be said that the site had a continuity of settlement from the Copper Age, Bronze Age, Roman period, all the way to the Middle Ages. Showcase 24. Monasterial Complex Šudikovo. The monasterial complex Šudikovo is 2 kilometers northeast of Berane, at the beginning of Tifran Gorge. The spiritual life of the monasterial complex was very intense in the period from the 13th to the 17th centuries and remained that way all the way until its burning and looting by the Ottomans in the 1738. The monastery Šudikova was famous for its transcribing and painting schools. This is where one of the oldest written documents from this area comes, the compilation called the Holy Trinity Compilation, which is kept in the monastery of the Holy Trinity in Pljevlja. The Diocese of Budimlja had a famous monastic school. The epilogue and nomocanon of Morača were transcribed by the Episcop of Budimlja, Teofilo Budimljanin, in the monastery of the Entry of the Most Holy Theotokos in the temple in Šudikova between 1251 and 1252. The Metropolitan of Budimlja, Gerasim, transcribed the famous Meneion in 1573, which is kept in the National Library in Belgrade nowadays. And in 1592, Hierom monk Danilo Budimljanin transcribed the famous Book of Psalms, which is kept in Vienna nowadays. Deacon Mihailo transcribed the prayer book in 1602, which is kept in the library of the Count Uvarov in Moscow. There was also transcribed the Divine Epistle Book of the Šudikova Monastery. The painting school is famous for its fresco painter Strahinja from Budimlja, who painted frescoes in the churches in Kaludra, in Podvrh, etc., in addition to Šudikova. The explorations on the site were also conducted in the beginning of the 20th century, but were also forbidden due to lack of expertise. The museum conducted systematic explorations in 2002 and at the same time revealed the remains of the church of the Entry of the Most Holy Theotokos and a lodging complex. There are displayed in the showcase vessels, Hungarian money, clasps and church items. The church and the monastery lodgings are restored nowadays. The tombstone. In the floor of the church in Šudikova, there was found a tombstone which, according to its material and decoration method, dates back to the 16th century. A number of such or similar memorials has been found in Raška and the municipality of Novi Pazar. Showcase 25. Monasterial Complex Sokolac. Sokolac is a village above Tomaševo, the municipality of Bijelo Polje. That was where the Lim Region Museum conducted explorations of church remains in 2007, and that was when there were found parts of church items used in liturgical rites, parts of lamps, a chandelier, rings and clamps. Along with these items displayed in the showcase, there were also found on the site 2 marble chandeliers which are conserved and protected. The complex was mentioned in the 16th century and is placed on 1,200 meters above sea level. The exploration of the monastery lodgings and accompanying facilities has not been conducted. Showcase 26. Medieval tools. There are in the showcase blacksmith's tongs, plowshares, and a melting pot. They arrived in the museum as accidental findings in the village of Vinicka near Berane. Showcase 27. In St. Nicholas Church in Nikoljac, near Bijelo Polje, by the end of 2009 and beginning of 2010. There were also found the founder's grave and, inside of it, 21 silver coin of the Lazareviches and Brankoviches. Thus, we can say that the church in Nikolac does not date back to the 16th century, but earlier than that. There are also displayed in the showcase fragments of ceramics, Ottoman money, Austrian and Hungarian money, a ripodon used in the liturgical rites, a plate with a relief presentation of a deer, fragments of a chandelier, etc. Showcase 27. Monasterial complex Celie in Kaludra. The remains of the monasterial complex Celie is close to the village of Kaludra, 10 kilometers southeast of Berene. The museum conducted explorations in 1991 and discovered remains of the St. Luke Church and the monastery lodgings. According to the remains of a fresco that is partly preserved in the museum, we can say that the church was painted by Strahinja Budimljanin by the beginning of the 17th century. There are displayed in the showcase the conserved part of the presentation of St. Luke, a pot with the seal of a workshop where it had been manufactured, and a few iron darts. Showcase 28. Haidar Pasha Mosque. The remains of the Haidar Pasha Mosque are in the village of Radulici, 20 kilometers south of Berene, the municipality of Bijelo Polje. The museum conducted protective explorations of the remains of the mosque in 2008, so as to make documentation for its later protection as a cultural memorial. These are remains of a facility which, according to its architecture, dates back to the 18th century. There are displayed in the showcase rings, clamps, as well as fragmented ceramic vessel which was used as an acoustic device in the mosque. Showcase 29. There are displayed in the showcase sabers of the Montenegrin army officers from the Upper Lim region who took part in the liberating wars by the beginning of the 20th century. Showcase 30. There is displayed in the showcase the saber of the military leader Gavro Vuković, the Minister of Foreign Affairs in the Montenegro Kingdom government. Below the saber there is a company flag of the Trapčan Secular Battalion used in the liberation wars in 1912. Showcase 31. There are displayed flintlock rifles, also called slim or Albanian rifles, that originally come from the north of Albania and are used in the rebellions of our people against Ottomans by the end of the 18th and beginning of the 19th century. In addition to these rifles, there are also displayed cap rifles, also called Viennese studs. Showcase 32. There are displayed national costumes of the Upper Lim region with their national features. The Montenegrin urban, festive male costume. It is comprised of a cap, a red wool felt vest called jamadan, a shirt, a long-sleeve upperwear called dolama, a belt, trousers called čakšire, leg warmers, and footwear called opanci. The Montenegrin urban, festive female costume. A cap, embroidered blouse, a belt called pafta, richly embroidered jacket called dušanka, a long-sleeve upperwear called dolama, a skirt and footwear called opanci. The Montenegrin rural shepherd's male costume. A long-sleeve upperwear called dolama, a red wool felt vest called jamadan, trousers called čakšire, woolen socks and footwear called opanci. The Montenegrin rural shepherd's female costume. A blouse, a long-sleeve upperwear called dolama, a skirt called fruka, and socks. The Muslim male costume. A cap called fes, a shirt, a vest called fermen, a belt, pants. the Muslim female costume. A long-sleeve upperwear called dolama, a jacket called mintan, a blouse, a belt called pafta, galligaskins called dimje. Female costume of the Albanian Catholics. A long dress called zhublet, a blouse. Female costume of Rashka. A sleeveless dress called zubun, socks, a blouse, a belt, a shawl. Showcase 33. There is displayed female jewelry. Showcase 34. There are displayed scimitars and chibuks. Showcase 35. Home items beginning of the 20th century. Showcase 36. Home items made of wood. Showcase 37. Home items made of baked clay. Showcase 38. Military decorations and insignia of the deserving citizens in the Liberation Wars. Showcase 39. In the showcases with arms, there are rifles, revolvers and pistols used in the World War I and World War II.